You might have heard that you need this. In fact, you might have been ignoring this for the last 15 years. But the fact is, 15 years ago, Mike Koenigs iterated this specific challenge to a room full of gold and diamond members inside of Magnetic Marketing. And it's just as relevant today, especially if you're still sitting on the sidelines, still thinking, one day I'm going to do this, still planning the golden movement, but you haven't done it yet. It's time to finally find and engage your customers using video online. Welcome to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast. In this episode, we get to listen to Mike Koenigs. Now, Mike Koenigs is going to have a full introduction from a Tony Robbins video, so we're going to go ahead and let Tony Robbins fully introduce Mike Koenigs here in a moment. But in this episode, we're going to be reiterating the importance of being online in video. We understand all the reasons why you may not want to be on video, but your brand needs to be there in one way or another because, frankly, the world is moving more towards this as a requirement for you to have just general-based authority, not even authority above and beyond the rest. And so we're going to talk about the rules of marketing, how it's not about the technology, it's all about the psychology and how to use a couple of strategies in order to get free traffic. Now, this is only part one of part two, so listen in, pay attention, especially if you're still sitting on the sidelines, and take the challenge to get moving today. And let's listen in.
I don't think there's anybody that has had a bigger impact in the field of direct response than Dan Kennedy.
The legend of Dan Kennedy should be ignored at your own peril.
They're not really lessons, they're kind of laws that you live by.
Dan opened my eyes to what small business marketing looks like.
Dan teaches strategic direct response that is timeless.
His ripple effect touches people who don't even know his name.
The world as we know it was changed because Dan Kennedy became obsessed with marketing.
Welcome to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with your host, Dan Kennedy.
So here's the story. So I met Mike Koenigs, who he pronounces his name 16 different ways. Last year at Yannick Silver's underground seminar, just sort of casually, and then we had a conversation afterwards, and I told him I was getting ready to publish my book, and I wanted to get my book on the New York on the bestseller list. I did not make New York Times, on the bestseller list, and he said to me, "Well, I can really help you with that." So when I published my book, I used somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 to 14 different strategies to sell books. Because unfortunately, one of the truths about books is it's actually easier to write them than it is to sell them. So I had to use a lot of strategies in order to sell them. However, and I've said this many times before, of all the strategies I use, so let's call it 12, if somebody said to me, "Bill, if there's one strategy that I would not allow you to not use, if we had to take away all the strategies but one, which is the one that you would keep?" And that's the work that I actually did with Mike Koenigs in order to actually take a piece of content and figure out how to use it lots of different ways without me having to do anything after I created the content the first time. So once I created the content, I was done. So getting back to what Lee Miltier just shared with you about figuring out ways for getting more things done, more time integrity, this is one of the strategies in order to do this, is you just create one piece of content only, and then after that piece of content, you let the magic voodoo, and that's what it's called. It's called the magic voodoo, okay? That's a trademark term, okay? The magic voodoo, just sort of take it over and do with it as it will. So I asked Mike to come here. This is really important stuff. And I asked Mike to come here and to share with you how he does the magic voodoo. But before I do that, actually what I like to do is I like to let a guy who lives in San Diego, some of you might have heard of this guy, his name is Tony Robbins. So is it okay if we let Tony Robbins tell you a little bit about Mike? Is it okay, guys? Oh, yeah. All right, so if we could roll the tape.
So today, I'm here to share with you, introduce you to a gentleman who's a dear friend of mine. He's helped me immensely, and it's the idea of how do I get my information out and engage my customers, and primarily how to use video to do that through the web. Helped me set up my studio and really helped me get going. He's been a dear friend, but more importantly, he's been a consultant to some of the biggest companies in the world. Here's a guy that started literally from nothing, but back in the early days of the web, back in 1991, most people forget, 1989 is when the World Wide Web really was created. So within a few years, he was already the guy that was, writing some of the first CD-ROMs games, that were out there, did some of the first Mac games that existed for Macintosh, went out and became the person that really, when the movie industry, was the guy that set up all those initial websites for Sony and for Columbia TriStar and for Fox. Was a guy that's, managed or helped some of the largest business in the world, 3M, Domino's Pizza. I mean, the list goes on and on. But he's also shown people how to get started from nothing. And I know that's what he's probably most proud of. So I want to introduce to you Mike Koenigs, my dear friend. Welcome, Mike.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. And what a fine-looking group we have here today in Dallas, Texas. So you guys ready to rock and roll? Learn some stuff? Come on, cheer up. I want to see some smiles. So glum. All right, you guys ready to have some fun? Yeah. Good, that's much better. I'll point out the glum people here every once in a while. So you guys ready to find out how to make some money with some internet video? Yeah. Good. I'm going to share with you some of my best stuff today. And first of all, I want to thank my friend Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy, are my friends, for having me here and the entire staff, because putting together an event like this is incredibly challenging, especially today. Fewer and fewer people come, and this is living proof of just the success of the quality of the people. And it's always a pleasure to be here. And I'm curious, how many of you have seen me speak before or know who I am? Well, diddly dang. All right. Well, this is brand new. Well, I've got a bunch of new stuff for you here. You're like, where are the rotten tomatoes for this guy? So, what I have for you is how to make more money and get some leads and build any business with video. If you've seen some of the activity that's been going on lately, we've had good exposure. And I'm going to give you some of the latest stuff that I've been learning and sharing. And, let's just get into it, all right? So first of all, a couple little bullets for you. One is, I love to talk about how to become an instant expert and authority. And as Bill was talking about a little while ago, the real key in this day and age, and this is really the most important thing I can share with you, is right now, you have the ability to communicate your message, your personal brand, or any product or service with a click of a button to the entire connected planet. And never before in human history have we had that capability. If you think about it, the printing press was a major development. Books, being able to share information and knowledge, because before then it was really the churches that could control the scribes. It was big organizations having someone who would just sit here and painstakingly write and copy these manuscripts and books. And, of course, radio changed it, the telegraph, television. But there's always been someone that stands between you and the customer. It's always about distribution. And recently, when you look at what has happened with iTunes, for example, in the music industry, Napster killed the music industry. It started a fast decline. And people started to pirate music. Well, then iTunes came along and offered a fair deal, which is $1 a track, and the record companies could no longer get away with selling 2 good songs and an album that was basically junk, right? Because they voted with their wallets. And they also found that right now Apple is the 3rd largest music distributor in the world. Everything is moving in that direction. And so that's really what we're talking about, is having the power to be able to press a button and share your message with the world. And video, of course, is the most powerful of all mediums that you can distribute. So what I'm sharing with you today has a lot to do with how to leverage that and how to leverage you and build your brand. Now, a couple of the other things that I think is really, really important here is number 2. We've had an enormous amount of success lately, and I'm going to share an example from a guy named Than Merrill, a real estate example. I've also got a couple other local examples, how you can literally dominate a market. So how many of you have some kind of a local business? You do business locally? Okay, a good chunk of you. And look, this isn't limited to that. I'm illustrating it because that's a big concern people have, because we all know that traditional old school media doesn't work like it used to. When you look at newspapers, magazines, radio, all the traditional stuff, it just doesn't convert as well or not as easily, and it's expensive. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about how I helped Bill and also recently Harvey McKay push their books to stratospheric heights. So why do you care about that? I'm curious too. How many of you have written a book or want to write a book? Okay, good chunk of you. This is going to be very important. And again, it doesn't matter what business you're in, what service, what category, what part of the world you're in. All this stuff works very, very well. So, and also some of my, what I call my celebrity marketing strategies, the stuff that I've shared with folks like Tony Robbins and, of course, Bill and Dan, Paul Abdul, Harvey McKay, Brian Tracy, and the list goes on. And this is one of my favorite stories. It's how I call it my 10-year mistake that cost me at least $10 million and how I fixed it in 30 days. And how you can too. I'm going to save you that time. Unless you don't want to hear it. Oh, okay. We'll do it. So, here are a few rules of marketing. Oh, and I'm going to give you one other thing. Something I absolutely believe. The value of writing stuff down. Now, after the next couple days, you're going to walk out of here, and at some point, you're going to feel completely overwhelmed. And I believe that overwhelm is a gift. It is a gift of the evolution of your brain. And if you write down, and when you write down, that was an injection, an NLP injection right there. When you write things down, I believe you actually program your subconscious. So every time you have an opportunity, just write things down, draw pictures. Our brain is programmed to store objects. So the process of, even if you're in a complete state of overwhelm, the process of writing that down is going to help program your subconscious. So you can also go back to your notes and you'll know how you felt, and you'll also be able to recall where you were a little while ago. So a huge part of what Bill and Dan are about are what I consider the rules of marketing, which is the whole world doesn't care about you. Right now, unless you're famous already or you are getting to exactly where you want to get, your family loves you, and your dog might love you, but they don't love you because they don't know who you are. And the number one thing that's missing from virtually every website, I don't care if it's a business one, a personal one, any kind of a corporate one, is personality. It's missing you. And that is why social media works so well. And we're really going to be talking about leveraging not just video, but also the social media networks. So they need to know who you are. They need to know about you. They need to be able to find you. Thankfully, we've got this great thing called Google and Yahoo and Bing. But they need to hear from you also. Why are Bill and Dan so successful? It's because you hear from them constantly, right? And you're getting that connection through a variety of mediums, whether it's CDs, you're getting calls, you're getting videos now. How many of you have seen Bill's cool show? No BS TV. Pretty fun, huh? It's neat. It's just a new way to connect and relate with him. And you can consume that content anytime, anywhere. But you need to do that too. And when you hear from someone on a regular basis, you'll eventually gain trust and hopefully the respect. Because we don't have to necessarily like someone in order to respect them and to buy something from them, right? It's better. It works a lot better. You'll buy a lot more. And the other big mistake that most people make is they try to sell something as soon as they meet you. So we're going to talk today about how to overcome all of these barriers and how to get your message out there and to be recognized as an authority and an expert on virtually any topic almost instantly. Does that sound interesting? Okay. So I'd like you to practice something. If you just say, me, everywhere, now. Just practice it. Me, everywhere, now. Okay? And that's really what this game is all about. You, your product, your service need to be findable, accessible, reachable instantly. Because the back button on the browser is the fastest button imaginable to press. Okay? It is. If it's crap, you pass it. That's just the way it works. And so you've got to grab them, and you've got to build a relationship and connect with them very, very rapidly. And that's what this game is all about. Now these are your partners. We call them the influence engines. These are the social media networks. Now presently, there are about 1.8 billion internet-connected users worldwide. Not too long ago, I was saying, look, we're at 1.74. We've already hit 1.8 billion. There are just under 6 billion mobile phone users worldwide. 4.5, 5 billion, correction. It was about 4.6 not long ago. Okay? The majority of the connected planet. Okay? And well over 80% of the populated planet is connected now. And that's really the future of all of marketing, is mobile. So if you can get your stuff on social media, social networking, podcast sites, status sites, virtually instantly, and that's article directories and video sites, the big search engines find you. And the big search engines are Google, Yahoo, Bing. And even though YouTube technically isn't a search engine, it works like one. Most people use it as one. And there's a direct correlation, there's a connection between Google and YouTube for obvious reasons. Okay? They own them. So, I've been on a quest for the past 4 years to create what I call the Make It Go button. And it all began with, I used to do marketing for a variety of different businesses, and for a while I was doing some marketing for a alternative hospital that was located in Mexico. It was run by a U.S.-based firm, a guy named the guy who founded USANA. I'm having a brain... Dr. Myron Wentz, that's correct. The name of the place is Sonovive, and I did all their video stuff. And when Google Video came out, they not only let you upload the video on Google, but take a little chunk of code and put it on your website and play it back. And I figured out how to hack the player so it wouldn't show the Google logo. Well, what happened is their traffic increased 15% in one night. And they gave me a call and said, I don't know what you did, but whatever you did is working really well. Keep on doing it. I'm like, okay, I don't know what I did. Because I just saved ourselves about $5,000 a month in hosting charges. Well, so I look at the server logs, I check out the web statistics, and I'm like, we got about a pretty substantial bump in traffic, and it all's coming from Google Video. And YouTube had just launched like a week around the same time, so I put it on YouTube. Boop, jump about 25%. And what was interesting is I started tracking the leads separately, and the quality of the lead that came from the video was 5 to 10 times more likely to convert. Why? Because they met the doctor, they saw what was going on. We actually just put testimonials up, and they were pre-qualified, ready to buy. Versus someone who, let's say, clicked on a Google AdWord, which I love, but I don't really know anything about. I'm not good at it. They have to see the ad and, of course, overcome the objection of, they're advertising to me here. And then come to the site and read some stuff or consume some stuff. That visitor is not going to be as valuable as someone who came from a third party, i.e. an influence engine, and learns about you. Does that make sense? So I ended up realizing that I was kind of onto something. I started putting more and more videos up. I hired people just to put videos online. Increased traffic, increased the amount of qualified leads and sales, decreased their costs. And that's when I thought, okay, I got to come up with a tool, a resource, an engine to do this automatically. So it's like I said, I've been on the quest to find that Make It Go button. Distribute content everywhere in the world with a click of a button, capture leads, and build a relationship. So I'm going to give you all of the resources and tools, and it's the mindset that makes that work. Ready? Cool. All right. So, number one, it's not about the technology, it's about the psychology and the system. We fortunately now have really, really good cameras. We'll talk about this in a little while, under $200 that you can record really high quality, high definition video with. You can press a button and broadcast your message to the entire connected planet so people on the desktop, laptop, and mobile phone can meet you, build a relationship with you, and learn to trust you. But that has more to do with what's in your head and overcoming the I can't do this than it does with the technology. We'll get back to that. So here's a little bit about me if you don't know who I am. I was born in a little town called Eagle Lake, Minnesota. I drove by a population sign that said 763 for over 20 years. My dad's a barber. I'm the oldest of four. Growing up, I had no mentors or resources, lower middle class family. At best, I have a high school education, barely, and I was a terrible student. I would be technically classified as learning disabled. Okay, I would have been drugged, but I went to a Catholic school, so they didn't do that there. All right, so what I'm most proud of, I'm a dad, I'm a husband. I taught myself to programmer. A neighbor, when I was 14, knew that we didn't have any resources and knew I liked technology and loaned me an Apple II computer, and I taught myself to program one weekend because I desperately wanted to get out of Eagle Lake, Minnesota. I did not like it there. It's cold. I am not meant to be in a cold environment. I live in San Diego now. That's why you see the little boat. But I started a little company called Digital Cafe. After selling that company, I had the good fortune of being able to make a feature film, which was a fine hobby, not a great way to make money. Any of you thinking about that? But it did get picked up by Warner Brothers. Didn't mean it made lots of money. And then 4 years ago, I was sitting in an audience with a guy named Armin Morin, if you've heard of him before. And I was like, watching the gurus prancing about on stage, not quite like I was a moment ago. But, and I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I read Dan Kennedy's books, the info marketing book, how to make millions of dollars with your ideas. And I'm like, diddly dang, diddly do. I've got to do that. I just tried that out. All right, so, but fast forward to now, a couple great things happen. I'll tell you more about the technology stuff, but I got the bug. And it's like, okay, I don't know anything about anything, but I made my first product. It was called the Infomercial Toolkit. Took 18 months to make. Started selling it at a teleseminar with some guy who said, I'll promote it with you. We made $140,000 in a week, and I was hooked. So I subsequently fired all my clients and went on and became a full-time internet marketer. Right now I've got a little movie project I'm working on, a second one called Success Leaves Clues, where I've been interviewing some of the people that I've had the good fortune of getting to meet and know because my career has taken off now, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I did that. And finally, the thing that I'm most proud of is the work that I'm doing in Uganda with my wife. I believe and I know that we are all here to make more money and to find ways to increase and create a constant stream of continuity income. Right? To work less, work more efficiently, and be able to enjoy life more, be able to provide for our families, build businesses, be more successful, be more visible. And the enemy of that, the enemy of mankind, is ignorance and poverty. And what goes on everywhere affects us here. And the solution to that is entrepreneurial activities in small business. 72% of the U.S. economy is driven by small business. And the more small businesses that we create, the more innovators and leaders we create, the faster we're going to wipe away the problems. So just through a series of events, I'll just relate this to a little lesson, which I call the instant expert and authority. How this all ties in is, I didn't just set out one day to start doing humanitarian work, but I've had the good fortune now of making some more money and seeing how, what works and what doesn't. And, the bottom line here is a few years ago, 3 now, my wife and I, we have a beautiful son, Zach, who's 7 now. We lost 2 babies through, and I'm having another space case here. When you, not stillborn, but miscarriage. There you go. Thank you for that. And my wife just woke up in the middle of the night one day and just said, I need to go to Africa. I don't know why, but you just have to trust me. And I never argue with my nice princess, my nice New York wife. She's all that, raised in Manhattan, and she wants something. She's very deliberate and very specific. So I said, go to Africa and do what you need to do. She went there and wound up in Uganda and just happened upon a hospital run by Catholic nuns, Bishop Asili Hospital in Luwero, Uganda. And there she witnessed this baby Christina, being born. The mother died in childbirth, and she was very moved. And she, really connected with a passion. I can remember she told me later, I'd rather be maybe the mother of 50,000 instead of just one more here in the United States. So while she was there, she shot some video, and she had a plan, because what she did next is asked Sister Ernestine, who runs the hospital, what can I do that will make the biggest difference? Well, it turned out they're delivering babies by kerosene lamp. And Sister Ernestine said, we need electricity. We can't refrigerate our medicines. We're having a terrible time right now. The number of women who die in childbirth here preventably is huge. And, we've got other big problems too, but if we just had electricity. So my wife had a plan, and that was to come home and raise $30,000 for a generator to give to the hospital. So she came home armed with, just this little cheap camcorder that she had shot. She was a terrible videographer at that time, didn't have any resources, didn't know what to do. And it was before my career had really taken off. So she came home, hired a videographer, and made a little video. And we used the same system that I've talked about earlier. and put it online. And we named the video The Secret to Helping Africa, like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, and Bono from U2, which they were big in the news at the time. And this is a big tip worth writing down, which is leverage the news, leverage the media. When you name your video content the same things that people are searching for, you're going to show up. So anytime there's an activity going on, think about how that relates to a product or service that is in your business. A review, for example. I'll get into that in a moment. But the bottom line is, she got a bunch of inquiries, including some people from the media started contacting her and asking her to be an expert and authority on Africa. And really all she did is she just said, I've been in Africa, here's the problem, or here are the problems that I see, here are some solutions, and here's what I'm going to do about it. It's kind of like what John Carlton talks about. Here's what I got, here's what it'll do for you, here's what to do next. She told people to go to her little website and learn more about what she was doing. Well, one thing led to another. She ended up getting a call from a group of African businessmen in Detroit who asked her to be an expert and authority on Africa, poverty, and AIDS at a fundraiser they were having in Detroit, and offered to pay her $7,000 and pay for her flights. And she thought, why not? So she went out there and just shared her video and told her truth. They gave her the money. And 30 days later, she had enough money for the generator. That's the generator. And if you fast forward to now, last year, she raised over $600,000 for the foundation. She'll have built the 6th school by the end of the year, 2 hospitals, they have 3 doctors. And these aren't handouts. These are self-sustaining businesses. They're delivering animals there through the Heifer Foundation. They are sending young boys and girls to school. And all of these are self-sustaining. Now, when people ask, well, why Africa? It's because you still can kind of do a lot with very little over there. It has a lot of impact. And over in the United States, despite what anyone would say, everyone here gets an education. No one really goes hungry here in the United States. Okay? Not really. Okay? And we live in this amazing place where there's so much opportunity, but there's nothing over there. So since then, she's opening up and doing educational programs in other countries as well, including the United States. But that's that story, and this is baby Christina a couple years later, all fat and happy. So it all turned out well, and she actually just returned last Monday from her 10th trip there. So that's the story of Vivian and how to establish yourself as an expert and authority. And really the big lesson is when you speak with passion, when you speak with conviction, when you just follow your heart and do what you know is right, people are attracted to that, okay, more than anything. So trying to be something that you're not. And again, what's beautiful is armed with nothing more than a couple $100 piece of technology, you can share your vision with the planet, and you'll never know who's going to find you, especially if you understand how to get seen. All right? So the next little story I have for you is about branding. It's leverage. Again, if you're starting in a place where no one knows who you are and your name doesn't have currency, this is a very, very, very powerful strategy, and it's one that's gotten the attention right now of a very large brand that's taken notice of me because of this. So, here's what it is, and let's make sure we have audio here, gentlemen. Oh, hi, this is the new Kodak ZI-8 portable camcorder, high definition with an external microphone input. The first I've ever seen for under $200. This is the first thing that has made me go flip. Bah, Kodak, yeah. So, I'm going to be giving one of these things away, and I'm going to be doing a full review and tell you how it can save you time, make you money, and allow you to have more fun. All you need to do is enter your contact information in the form, and I'll see you on the other side for a full Kodak ZI-8 review. See you soon. So, here's what happens when you search for Kodak ZI-8 camera review. That, by the way, is one of my favorite little cameras, and I'll talk about how you can get one free in a little while. So the fourth item down, I just grabbed this upstairs a few minutes ago. I'm number 4, and you'll see there's a little icon there on Google. And you can see there's a bunch of sponsored links, which means this is a fairly popular search term. And one thing that I've realized and learned is people who are interested in video, who watch my stuff, are also interested in buying my products and services. So if I can go out there and communicate with people who are qualified, who don't know who I am, this is a great way to connect with them. So if you go to YouTube right now, again, I just grabbed this morning, that video has been watched over 50,000 times, 51,000. And one of the nice things about YouTube is they allow you to embed links on the pages that go right back to your website. So you get free traffic, very high quality free traffic. Well, so here's the idea. I review all sorts of products and services all the time. And anyone here, we all consume stuff. We all use products and services. For example, all the Kennedy products, for example. And I'll tell you what, if you sold a bunch of products or services for Bill and Dan, do you think they'd pay attention to you? Do you think they'd like you even more? All right? So here's what happened. Kodak folks saw that video and they're like, can we do something together? So I have a proposal, a business proposal with them. But you can associate your name with the brand. And as a critic, that's totally cool. Of course, you don't want to do anything nasty. You're better off focusing on the products you like versus being nasty and talking about the products you don't like and why you don't like them. That can turn into some problems. But it is very, very powerful. And in less than 30 days, you can basically dominate niches and be associated with books, authors, products, and services. And they will pay attention to you. You with me? All right. So there's another tip. I call it standing on the shoulders of giants. I also call it how to get rich and famous, helping the rich and famous get even more rich and famous than they already are. Okay? And I will tell you that this is one of the most powerful exercises you can ever do. It has catapulted my personal career into the stratosphere. Here's why. So there I am, Tony, in my studio. He came to me. There I am with Frank Kern on the day we set up Tony on his Twitter account just over a year ago. He's got over 2 million followers now. And here's some more. So there I am with Paul Abdul, Harvey McKay, Joe Sugarman, Bob Allen, Brian Tracy. Who's that guy? I don't know. Oh, yeah, Glazer, whatever. And there's Tony and Kathy Buckley. She's a pretty famous deaf comedian. But how did I get there? I just started helping them. Instead of going to them and saying, hey, Bill, I got a great joint venture idea. I really want you to sell my stuff. And I got a great idea. You do all the work, and then I'll get half the money. How's that? Doesn't work. Okay? Instead, how can I stand and be in service? Okay? What can I do for you? How can I leverage my skills and resources to help you? Well, some of the way, my first product, the infomercial toolkit, I wanted to figure out how do you sell stuff online using video. So I adapted the television infomercial formula to the web. Well, I got access to people like Joe Sugarman and a whole bunch of other really great infomercial pioneers who gladly gave me enough time. I just said, do you mind if I interview you? This is for a product that I'm working on. Absolutely, no problem. You mind signing a release? No problem. Okay, here's what I'm going to do with it. Here's what's in it for you, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Got access to tons of people. So when the product goes out there, and then when they call you up and say, hey, you know what, that infomercial toolkit product of yours, I got some leads today. You know, I got a lead and it turned into a project. That's really interesting to them. So what can you do for them?
Thank you for listening to the Magnetic Marketing Podcast with Dan Kennedy. If you love hearing in on these lost Dan Kennedy talks and speeches and calls, then please let someone else know about this podcast. That's how you can help it to grow. And the more it grows, the more free Dan Kennedy we can bring to you. Also, Dan would love to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to help you make maximum money in minimum time. Now, this free gift comes with almost $20,000 in pure money-making information for free just for saying maybe. You can get this gift from Dan right now at nobsletter.com. Not only will you get the $20,000 gift, you're also going to get a subscription to 2 marketing newsletters that will be hand-delivered by the mailman to your mailbox each and every month. One from Dan Kennedy and one from me, Russell Brunson. To get this gift and your subscription, go to nobsletter.com right now.